I'll do that quickly again.
The meeting will be recorded.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Um, so it wants me to say got it. Okay, there you go. So good afternoon, everyone, or good night if you're in Israel. My name is Moran Olsha. I live in Toronto, and I've been with Facts for the past more than 2 years, since October 7. And I basically manage right now three WhatsApp groups that spreads that gives you sort of the message to act and gives you the link to be able to act through using our system. And we'll talk about what our system is through this one. So the first thing that I wanted to explain is why we even started Facts. And that's because there is a public relation war out there. What does that really mean? So there's an anti-Semitic massive campaigns that are going on, being very well funded, and it starts from Qatar, Iran, and other regimes that really just wants to spread that. But unfortunately, it gets roots everywhere. And there's a good friend of mine who's not Jewish in Toronto came to me and he said, "Oh my God, they all came out of the woodworks. There's so many anti-Semitism out there, but it wasn't legitimate to say you are." And now all of a sudden, after October 7th, to our dismay, it became okay to say that and okay to behave that way. And the problem with it is that these campaigns are actually shaping public opinion. And what that means is that now it's spreading from the people who actually, you're not going to be able to change their mind. They're anti-Semitic. They grew that way. They're just probably going to continue to do that because they have some agenda. To other people that had no knowledge about that, had no interest in it, all of a sudden they're supporting that, and now you have a public opinion that's supporting anti-Semitism. And what that does, especially in democracies where the political forces are being strengthened by the public, if the public opinion is to be anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian, then political entities have to support that in order to exist and to get the support from the public that they need. And that obviously results in anti-Israeli decisions to prove to the public that the political forces are doing what the public wants. So really where we want to be is to try and change the public opinion. So this is where the public relation works to rethink how we can help not letting the anti-Semitism campaigns take over public opinion. So how do we do this? Um, Advocacy is a big challenge because we are outnumbered, outspoken. There are louder people than us. There are more people than us. Like I said, the anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic campaigns are very well funded, and unfortunately, as a group, we're smaller. That's just the nature of being Jewish or supporting Jewish people. Speaking the echo chamber, that's the biggest mistake that we all do. And a lot of us, and that happened to me when October 7th started. I was very vocal on social media. Uh, and I felt so good because I got all this positive reactions from family, friends, people who knew me. But then I realized, oh my God, I'm talking to the people who know everything. And then I start seeing my own posts are being, bounced back at me from my friends. And I thought, we're not doing anything. We're talking to each other, which is great. It's nice support, but it's not really what we're trying to do here. And then what happens is the long-term inconsistency. So we started on October 7. It's been more than 2 years. And then we want to make sure that we are consistent and we are vocal out there. So how do we solve this? And that's where the facts solution comes in. So, Barbara asked us, what is the difference? What is unique about facts? So the first thing is we are not just posting pro-Israeli, oh my God, pro-Israeli post. We are strategic targeting um, the audience, the majority, and we're trying to do that by taking content that is effective. It's supplied to us by experts, and we know that that content will be received by a lot of people. And of course, we know that a lot will object to it. But as long as there are reaction to those posts, we're strengthening those in the social media, which makes them more popular, which again spreads that outside of the echo chamber. The idea again is to click worldwide reach, meaning again, we're going back to very quick, and it's not spreading that information to people who already know it. It takes it out of our echo chamber, out of the people that are necessarily normally are the supporter of Israel to the general public, because we're trying to impact public opinion. And then we have data-driven research and analysis, and Boaz is going to walk us through that later on in the chat today in the webinar to show how we're tracking the improvement of what our actions are actually doing. So to introduce our system, is that a video, Boaz? Can we share that video?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is a video that will show you how quick we do this and how it works. I will say it's an older video that we've done, and we're working on a new version because our system got even more improved, and we're actually doing a lot in the X, plus Twitter, etc. But we'll talk about that later on. So go ahead, Boaz.
Hello, this is a video on how we do our task. Our system will load a post. You can watch it or ask for a different post, or you can proceed to preview the post by clicking on the preview button. Here, you can see the name of the group and the text proposed for the post. You can change either the group or text on this screen. Once you click share, the system will copy the post and text to your clipboard and take you to the group on Facebook. In this case, I already joined this group, but if you didn't, this is where you join the group. You then paste the post where it tells you to write something, then you wait to see your post loading and wait until a confirmation message shows up at the bottom. Thank you.
So everything in this video still works that way, but we have more features. So we'll work on getting a new video to show you all the features. But this really explains how fast it is. And we do this 3 times. We get 3 posts in the Facebook, again, in groups that probably are not groups that you're typically would be a member of. And that's how you reach out to much, much wider audience.
Hello,
So, like I said before, the system is the multiplier, the community is the force. So, the system allows us, as you saw, to post 3 times in less than a minute. Great, we've multiplied our exposure. That's great. But only if we have the community that will actually force that would actually do the action. So we have grown to 15,000 ambassador, and I'm very, very proud of that. And we've been quite stagnant on that number for a while now. So I'm hoping that after this webinar, we'll continue to grow. But as you can see, 15,000 people doing that act is making a difference. And what does that mean? We've already posted more than 1.5 million posts, and as a community through our system. And the biggest thing is that those 1.5 million has resulted in 1 billion views. And that's where you've actually reached out outside of our community, because our community is definitely not a billion people viewing our posts. So there is a clear understanding that we're making a difference. So now I'm going to turn over to Boaz. I just want to quickly introduce Boaz. Boaz actually founded this amazing community, and he was the one that created this system, obviously with the help of other brilliant minds that came together to make this happen. I feel very fortunate that I got to meet Boaz and be able to participate, as I'm sure a lot of you feel that way. Boaz, I'll let you take it from here. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Moran. Moran, as she said, volunteered with us around more than 2 years and do amazing job and help us a lot. And we really appreciate you. So thank you, Moran. And now I'm going to take it for a few minutes, a deep look about what we do is actually how it impacts what we do. So first of all, I'm going to talk about Facebook. That's the first, our first platform that we started. So on Facebook, we decided to start with Facebook because it's easy to get other audiences outside Israeli echo chambers because we have groups. And here we can see something really interesting. Here you can see the graph, and you can see posts that we insert inside our system and what happened before we insert it into the system and started to share it through our system and our community, and what happened after that. So the yellow is before and the orange is after that. Okay, before and after, before and after. So you can see how impactful what we do. So in average, we more than double the views of our posts that we put into the system. For example, you can see every day a post like stand with us, like honest reporting, like our posts, etc., amazing content creators. And in average, we more than double our posts. So that's amazing. And that's because the people that really do it every day, and without you, it's never was possible. So the second thing is interesting is to see how it's look in the graph before and what happened in the specific period of time that we insert it in the system. Because if you have a critical thinking, so you can ask the question, yeah, but maybe it's normal that posts double themselves after one day, for example. So here you can see the specific period of time and what happened after that. So the linear line of growth break and become a exponential line. So you can see it here. Okay, the next step I want to share with you our performance on X, Twitter. So we launched the system around a year ago, but we create second version around a half a year ago. And we try to understand if we can do it again and again. And we chose a page with around 300 followers, okay? And we start to check what is the performance of this page while we put this page content into our system and of facts. So what we saw is this page got in 1 month 571,000 plus views. That's not like 300 normal page. It's maybe something like hundreds times more than average page like this size. And the most interesting thing is 95+% is outside Israel, outside Israeli echo chamber. So we succeed too, not only on Facebook, but also on X. And we check, yeah, but maybe it's in general. So no, the post that we put into the system received more than 16 times more views than posts from this page at this period of time that we didn't put into the system. So we check it with all the angles, and we saw that's really work amazing. So that's about how it's worked, but here is about the demographics and the target audiences. So almost 97% of the people that saw our content on X is non-followers. So again, we go outside our echo chambers. 95+%, as I said before, is outside Israel, and we are with more than 50 countries. The second thing that's interesting is the ages, is the age distribution. So you can see that we succeed to get views from the youngers. You can see more than 35% is youngers, is 34 or less in age. And that's really interesting because, you know, X is not typically for youngers, but we succeed to get them. Okay. Another interesting thing that we talked a little bit before this meeting is the collaboration with FOA. We met FOA around a year ago, and they focused on remove anti-Semite content and this kind of content, hostile content. And we understand that we are like yin and yang. We complete each other because we focused on exposures, on distribution, but they focused on the remove. So we can collaborate together and do amazing job together. And we already went to Palm Beach County and got asked for the grant for them together. So that's how we started the collaboration with them. And we'll bring you the next update, maybe in the next few weeks or more than that. Last, before I'm going to introduce you, Amit. We had a few events last days. One of them is the IAC conference here in Florida. This conference was amazing. We got a lot of contacts, key people contacts. That's the most important thing. Key people contacts. We met federations. We met people that have organization or support organizations. We met other organizations that do amazing job, and with some of them, we really consider to do another collaborations and plans together, and that was really effective conference. Another thing, we are in the middle of the process to register here in the United States as a 501c3. Currently, we have third-party 501c3, but we want our own 501c3 and go to the long term with a well-based organization in Israel, but in the United States too. The last thing, we are recruit. We are in the process of recruit a local person that help us with the fundraising in United States, because we live in Israel, so all the time that we need to move to Israel and United States, so we prefer to do it with another one that help us to strengthen the fundraising efforts in United States. So that's another thing that we do currently. And the last thing is the rebranding Facts. As you know, our last name was Facts Commando, but Commando have a few problems. First, in bureaucracy terms, or it was too small for our organization and what we do. Maybe we started as a Commando, but now we are a big army that work together, and it's not compatible to what we do. So we need to think again about the name. And the last thing is we found that Facts have a beautiful acronym for what that's explain what we do. So it's called, like you can see, Future of Advocacy, Community, Technology, Scalability, and that's our new brand. So now we're going to the last thing. You can see nearby me, Amit Tirosh. Amit is amazing person, volunteer. He is with us around a half a year and do amazing thing for our organization. He volunteering and help us in Florida, in connections, in conferences. He managed conference for us here in the Parliament of Boca Raton. I'm honored to introduce you. So Amit, let's.
Thank you, Boaz, and thank you, Moran. I'm going to keep it really brief because I want us to be on time for Ido later on. But basically, like Boaz said, I joined 6 months ago on a volunteer basis, told them, hey, use me whichever way you see fit. Right now at the IEC, it was my 4th round here in South Florida and in the US, trying to open channels especially for fundraising and collaborations with other organizations. But fundraising is key because Facebook and X, it's great, but I know we all agree that we need to be in more platforms. For that, we need to recruit, we need to hire developers that will be fully committed to learn the algorithms of TikTok America when that transition into TikTok America, led by Oracle, will be completed in a few months. Telegram, Instagram, of course, YouTube, Reddit. One thing we heard, in the conference, again, it was reiterated how Reddit is a major source for OpenAI, for ChatGPT. So whatever content is fed into Reddit, that is the narrative that ChatGPT will spit back at you when you ask about the Israeli-Arab conflict, what the war in Gaza, Iran, Qatar. And if we're not there, then we are losing, the OpenAI, the ChatGPT narrative. So all, extremely important efforts, but they can't be done without sustainable funds coming in to enable us recruit talents, expensive talents, unfortunately, full stack developers, AI developers, people that can really help us learn the algorithms of each one of these platforms. They're all different. And in order to distribute massively into these platforms, we just need resources. We need recruiting effort. And I'm trying my best to help in that effort. I'm not coming from a fundraising world, I'm coming from investment banking world and finance. But I've had, a few connections here, a few social circles and business circles. So I'm trying my best. It's not enough. We'll need more help. Like Boaz said, we are trying to recruit. It won't be just one person. It will be more, because North America, it's, 146 Jewish federations and other organizations, and then private sector that we'll try to go after. And for that, we need many people helping us through. So we're just starting. But any help that any of you can help in that respect, it's critical for our success. And we need to do it relatively fast. We don't have much time. If you are in touch with people that may want to support these efforts, I would love to follow up with them and try to see what we do. And that's it. I'm going to turn it over to Ambassador Ido Aharoni. I hope he's with us. I met Ido for the first time when I invited him to the Boca Parliament, which I chaired at that time in Boca Raton, Florida. And Ido really blew my mind because he spoke about rebranding of countries and how countries present themselves to the world. And he presented what for me was a totally new approach. It's not necessarily about just yelling back, oh, we are right, we're doing the right thing, the war in Gaza is just, they attacked us first, you have to support us, we are on the right side of things. It's not. Ido presented a totally new approach of how to brand or to rebrand a country in order to get, much greater success, in the advocacy arena. And I was so impressed that we invited him again and again to the Boca Parliament. And every time he just opened our minds, to new ideas and thinking creatively about advocacy. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Ambassador Ido Aharoni, who served for 6 years, more than any other ambassador in New York as the New York State Council. And Ido, all yours. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Amit. I hope you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, terrific.
Do you have a presentation that you need or nothing?
Yes, I'm going to actually use a presentation.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Here it is. For your very kind introduction and for your very generous compliments that you gave me. I'm also honored to be here, especially whenever I'm asked to address a group of volunteers. I'm always very respectful of the fact that you guys give your time and your energy and your effort to promote the cause. Thank you, Boaz, for everything that you do, and thank you, Liat, for taking care of all the logistics and helping me with setting this presentation. Now, I was asked not necessarily to speak about Israel today, but rather about the problem of anti-Semitism. And I must say that the title of my talk is Anti-Semitism or Jew Hatred in the Age of Information Overload, which I'm going to cover the threats and the opportunities that exist. But let me just say, generally speaking, the term anti-Semitism is a problematic term. Most people don't really know what it means. It sounds too academic. It sounds too heavy. And therefore, my recommendation to you would be to simply use the term Jew hatred. Jew hatred explains very quickly what we're talking about, and why Jew hatred is a problem is much easier for us to convey. So a few things to be said about Jew hatred. The first is I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It is the oldest form of hatred known to mankind. It's the most consistent form of conspiracy theory. Jews were hated when they were up. They were hated when they were down. They were hated when they were rich. They were hated when they were poor. They were accused of the Black Plague. They were accused of communism. Bottom line, the Jews is the only minority throughout history that consistently had been accused of trying to rule the world. That's the conspiracy. So when you look at racism against people because of their skin color or because of their sexual preferences, all forms of bigotry, no one ever accused the gays, for example, of trying to rule the world, or the blacks, or the Asians, or so on. The Jews are consistently being accused of trying to rule the world. And this has nothing to do with the objective condition of the Jewish people. When they were stateless, now they have a state, it doesn't mean anything. Now, what we're seeing in recent years, and more forcefully after 10/7, is the rise of a new form of hatred that is coming from countries that where anti-Semitism is endemic to the culture. Most notably Muslim countries. Now, this is not to say that all Muslims hate Jews, but in those societies where anti-Semitism is part, for example, of the curriculum, like the Palestinian society, like the Iranian society, then obviously you find Jew hatred. The Jew haters are now being rewarded politically, not only the people here in New York. We saw that in the most recent elections to the mayor, but also look at what is happening with Qatar and what is happening with Turkey vis-a-vis Gaza. They're being rewarded politically, geopolitically. They're being rewarded politically, locally, and nationally and internationally. And so we're looking at a very, very interesting phenomenon which we did not have to deal with, not even during World War II, where anti-Semitism was endemic mostly in Europe, but it was not rewarding the Jew haters. They were ultimately defeated by the West that was determined to defeat Nazism and fascism. I do not see that kind of determination today to tackle the Jew haters. And that's a big challenge that we're going to talk about. Jews are facing an active campaign waged against them by state actors that have a lot of money, a lot of resources, and they're not shy about exploiting Western liberal pluralistic democracies where they are given the freedom of speech, and under the guise of the freedom of speech, they launch their Jew-hating campaigns. We'll talk about that as well. So what is the challenge? The challenge is that it's being mainstreamed. Jew hatred is being mainstreamed. And there is an attempt to create an artificial distinction between anti-Zionism, which is supposedly legitimate, and anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, which everybody agrees it's not legitimate. Now, why do I say that it's a false distinction? for the very simple reason. What is the definition of racism? What is the definition of bigotry? What is the definition of anti-Semitism? It's the discriminatory singling out of one group because of its identity. If I would tell you every person has a right to become a member of this club, but no black people can become members of this club, you will say, well, that's racism. If I told you that everybody can be a member of this club, but no gays, you'll tell me that's bigotry. And if everybody is allowed to join this club, but no Jews, you'll tell me it's anti-Semitism. That's clear. That's discrimination. It's even in the American Constitution. You cannot discriminate. Now, when it comes to national self-determination, if someone has a problem with the fact that Jews have their own country, but does not have a problem with the Muslims of Iran having their own Islamic Republic, does not have a problem with the North Koreans having their own North Korean country, or for that matter, the Germans. The Germans have two ethno-states. They have Germany and Austria. And think about how many ethno-states are Turkish, right? If all those countries have a right to exist, but the Jews do not have a right to exist, which is the meaning of anti-Zionism, then clearly it is a form of discrimination that is qualified as anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. Now, this is not to say that people do not have the right to be critical of the Israeli government. Most Israelis are critical of the Israeli government, always have been, by the way. Israelis are extreme. If you really want to encounter a bunch of people that are critical of Israelis, talk to the Israelis themselves. But there's a big difference between saying, I oppose the government's policies. I think the war in Gaza is wrong. I think that the war in Gaza should have been done differently. And the statement, I don't think the Jews deserve to have a state. Now, this becomes mainstream. This is the mayor of New York. This is Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's a very famous African-American writer, who's part of the curriculum of every high school in America, right? This is a wide range of academics that think that to say that the Jews do not have a right to have their own state, meaning do not have a right to be masters of their own destiny, do not have a right for self-determination, that's a form of anti-Semitism, clearly. It's very important that we understand that. Let me give an example. Imagine if someone had said in 1945, enough is enough with those Germans. Twice in the 20th century, the Germans were responsible for the two biggest calamities in the history of humankind. I want you to consider the numbers. In World War II, in 1945, when they were counting the dead, 60 million people died, 22 million refugees, 1/3 of the Jewish people were exterminated in an industrial fashion that even the most twisted mind could not have envisioned. And all of this when global population was 2.5 billion. Today, global population is close to 8 billion. You do the math. What would be the toll of World War II in today's terms? I'll tell you, 200 million people dead in Europe and in the Pacific. 80 million refugees. This is the toll that humanity paid for the recklessness of the Germans. So if someone said in 1945, you know what, enough with those Germans. They do not deserve to have their own country. Let's have the Germans dispersed throughout Europe. Let's have them integrate into other societies, into other cultures. Let's eliminate the right of the Germans to have their own ethno-state, ethno-country. Not only that no one seriously entertained this, they have two countries, the Germans, Austria and Germany. And so if someone says seriously, whether it's Mamdani or Ta-Nehisi Coates, I don't care who they are, but if someone says seriously, I don't have a problem with the state of Israel. I have a problem with it as a Jewish state. And believe it or not, I heard many Jews that fell into this trap. There is no such thing that the Jews do not have a right to have their own state. That is not a form of racism. It's very clear, very, very simple. And it's important that you guys out there in the forefront, that you know this distinction. And this is really the big battle. This is the big battle. The smoke screen that the anti-Semites are trying to create by presenting the false distinction between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. There is no such thing. If you think the Jews do not deserve to have their own country, if they do not deserve to control their own destiny, you are a racist. You are an anti-Semite, plain and simple. And I don't care what your name is, and I don't care how many people voted for you. Now, all of this happening because we're up against something that is much bigger than the policies of the State of Israel that are under severe criticism, and I can understand why. This is much bigger than all the efforts that we are making, all the threats that we are facing. We are dealing with a unique moment in history, in the history of human evolution, if you may, which is called the information revolution. The information revolution created a very unique situation where the human brain that was never designed to handle so many digital stimulations simultaneously is really freaking out. The human brain is going crazy. People are buying into this binary view of reality that is shaped by a merciless algorithm. The result is that simplicity overrides complexity. There are no more complex conversations to be held. Every conversation is nuance-less conversation. Right? What we see is a large-scale virtue signaling, right? When Mamdani says the Palestinians will be, and I heard him in my own ears, he said it. He said, the Palestinians will write the next chapter of New York. That's a classic example of virtue signaling. Think about it. The Palestinians will write the next chapter of New York. How many Palestinians live in New York? Practically zero. There are 2 pockets of Palestinians in North America, in Dearborn, Michigan, and in Paterson, New Jersey, certainly not in New York. And they will write the next chapter of the greatest city in the world, not the Jews, not the Italians, not the Ukrainians, not the Chinese, not the Koreans, not the Indians, the Palestinians. They will be the ones writing the next chapter. Are you serious? Are you seriously saying this? Of course. Either he doesn't know what he's talking about, or we're looking at large-scale virtue signaling. We see a whole generation of people that are consuming information mindlessly, not deploying critical thinking, not deploying any form of judgment, because that's the addiction. That's the dopamine that they're getting from scrolling up and down. It's called dooms scrolling. We entered the post-truth era. Facts are important, but they're only one option. The truth is only one option of many. And then, of course, as a result of this binary view of reality, you reach a point where the underdog is always right. From saying the underdog, we need to be compassionate to the underdog. We need to see the world through the eyes of the underdog, which is legitimate. It's a legitimate statement. It's in Judaism, it's in Christianity, it's even in Islam. There's an entirely different thing to say the underdog is never wrong. The underdog is never accountable. It's not just vis-a-vis the Palestinians, by the way. It happened to the Me Too movement as well. What started as a movement that said, let's be more sensitive to women, to their predicament, to their situation in society. It went all the way to say, I believe you no matter what, only because you're a woman. That's a wrong statement to make. You can't say to someone, because of your skin color, you're not accountable for your crimes that you performed. You can't say to a group of people, because you are weak, you are always right, and you are never accountable, which is basically what those people buying into the oppressed versus oppressor worldview say to the Palestinians. Well, there's news. The underdog can be wrong. The underdog can be vicious. The underdog can be violent. But that's the kind of complexity this generation that is consuming information mindlessly is unable to understand. And that's how you end up with queers for Palestine. Because think about it, it makes perfect sense. If you are queer and you think of yourself as a good person, and make no mistake, all these people demonstrating against Israel, that we call them the Jew haters, I'm sure deep inside, maybe with the exception of those who are getting paid, but deep inside of them, they think they're doing the right thing. They see themselves as good people, and they say, okay, if I'm a good person, in the struggle between the oppressed and the oppressor, I cannot side with the perceived oppressor. Therefore, I must side with the oppressed. And that's how you end up with queers for Palestine. Although they know, intellectually, I'm sure they know, that if they were in Gaza living like queer people openly, they probably will not survive the next day. So facts are important, and God bless you all for doing what you're doing. But it's important that you also understand that they're insufficient. What is missing? What is missing is what we call the emotional tie. We need to practically reintroduce Israel and everything that Israel stands for to an entire new generation that lacks the ability to relate to what Israel is all about. You have to understand that countries and cities are like human beings. When I say to you Paris, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Romance. When I say Brazil, people think immediately of the carnival, right? When I say Nashville, you think of country music. When I say Memphis, you think of blues. When I say Tel Aviv, you think of nonstop, right? Tel Aviv is such an energetic place. When they say Jerusalem, you think of holiness, of sacred places, because it's a place of religiosity. And I can go on and on and on with examples. When I say Las Vegas, you think of Sin City, right? What is it that people think when the word Israel is being said to them? That, believe me, it's not romance. It's conflict. It's bloodshed. It's strife. It's danger. It's war. And that's the challenge that we are facing. How do we overcome this challenge? By restoring the emotional connection to Israel. How do you do that? By broadening the lens through which Israel is being perceived, because it's true. Israel is a place plagued with many conflicts, but conflict can never be the one and only thing that defines who we are. The Israelis are way more than their troubles. Just as if I tried to sell you this product, I would never emphasize the problems of the product. What I would do is emphasize the qualities of the product, what we call in economy, its relative advantages, and how this product is relevant to your life. Same thing goes for places. In order for Israel to restore its position in the eyes of the younger generation, and make no mistake, the vast majority of them, we know that because we've seen the numbers, the vast majority of the young people in America and in Western Europe do not care about the Middle East. It's not a top priority for them. So what you're hearing is a small minority. The vast majority of people care about lifestyle, they care about wellness, they care about their health, they care about the way they live their lives, they care about all sorts of things. They do care about the Middle East. If they're being forced to take a position, they'll probably take a position against Israel. So highlighting Israel's creative spirit is the key. We tested what is the narrative that we can tell the world about Israel that will be both reliable and attractive at the same time, meaning not a lie, has to be authentic, credible, truth. That narrative was the narrative that talks about Israel's unique creative spirit. Why is it working? Because, first of all, creativity in general is viewed by people universally as inspirational. If you remember the success of TED Talks about 15, 20 years ago, it was because all the speakers selected for TED Talks, I'm talking about the original TED Talks before they diluted the brand, all the speakers were highly creative, and they were telling us stories that were inspirational. Also, it comes from our tradition. What is the Jewish tradition? Debate. What is debate? Debate is the engine of creativity. It's the refusal to accept limitations. A country that is 70% arid land was able to solve its water problems by desalination, taking water from the ocean, pumping the water, then using it. That's creativity. A country that has to fight for its life, that is facing unprecedented series of external threats. You look at the pager attack in Lebanon, that's creativity. The deaf and blind theater group from Jaffa, Nalagat, Please Do Touch, that's creativity. How do you take 15 people that cannot hear and cannot see, and you turn them into a functioning, entertaining theater troupe? That's creativity. How do you create a pill cam, a camera that surveys your digestive system? That's creativity. Mobileye is creativity. Waze is Israeli creativity. You look at the Israeli cuisine, all the restaurants, all the food that exists in Israel. That's creativity. You look at architecture in Israel. That's creativity. And these are the things that we need to highlight. Think about a first date. You go on a date, and your date says to you on the first date, listen, before we go any further, there's something you need to know about me. I have lots of problems. And I had a fight with my neighbor, and we're going to court. And you're sitting there and you say, what the hell? What's going on here? This is a first date, and my date starts the date by telling me of their problems. And then comes the punchline. The date says to you, if you'd like to have a future in this relationship, you have to show up to court with me and stand with me. That's what Israel is doing as a collective. We go to people that don't have the foundational knowledge, and we demand, stand with me, especially Jews. We say, because you're Jewish, the expectation is that you will stand with Israel. Well, most people are not knowledgeable about what's happening. Most people are not attracted to conflict. Most people would like to know what's in it for me. Show me how Israel is relevant to me. In other words, what I'm proposing is to reverse the order. Instead of focusing on what I want to say, which is the epitome of Israeli hasbara, Israeli advocacy, is the knowledge of what we want to say, our messaging, our facts, our arguments. We know what we want to say. I'm proposing to reverse the order. Let's first, what is it that they care about? Not what we care about, what they care about. And then let's go back and check Israel's inventory and see if Israel has something relevant to offer to them. It can be in the form of facts. It can be in the form of campaigns. It could be in the form of propositions. Let me give you the best example. People that run marathons, it's like a cult, right? They run marathons. They travel all over the world and they run marathons. We have 3 marathons in Israel, and we have 1 Ironman in Eilat. We have Tiberias, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, 3 marathons. Do you know how easy it is to find the people that run marathons on social media? They're on Instagram. They have their own Facebook groups. They're on Twitter. You find them wherever you go. How easy it is to launch a campaign that is giving them an incentive to come and run the marathon in Israel, one of those 3 marathons. Believe it or not, and we tried it before with wine and other things, it's working. Because when someone is passionate about long distance running, they put geopolitics aside. And the few that will not put geopolitics aside, we can live without them. So what are the solutions? Obviously, we need to engage in a large scale, massive effort to bring influencers from all walks of life to Israel. Make sure that they get to know the Israelis, because once you connect with the Israelis, I don't have to convince you that there is no genocide in Gaza, because you know Israelis, and you know the Israelis that you know are not capable of committing genocide in Gaza. And the genocide, by the way, accusation is started by the Soviets already. It's not new. This is a page from the Soviet textbook. We need a cyber influence campaign. I urge the Israeli government to establish a national cyber force. I'm talking about 5,000 people that will be engaged in cyber campaigns in the realm of public diplomacy, which is what you guys are doing. Obviously, we have to encourage legislation to block such initiatives like the initiative that Mayor Mamdani took here in New York, changing or canceling the definition of anti-Semitism and reversing the anti-BDS laws. We need to invest in academic content, which is something that the State of Israel never did. Jewish philanthropists did that, but the State of Israel officially never endowed chairs in the United States in leading universities like the Saudis did over the years, or the Qataris did over the years. And then, of course, we must never forget elementary school, middle school, and high school curriculum, where we have to engage them by presenting our own curriculum that is telling the story the way it should be told. So that's my short presentation for you. I'll be more than happy to take some of your questions, please.
Ido, before we take questions, I just want to really thank you for this amazing presentation. And personally, I really appreciate everything you were saying. It's very inspiring, and it's very
heartening.
yes. So thank you. I had to say
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, my question is this. We keep looking for ways to reach the people who hate us. And I think what you say about emotion, if you capture somebody's emotions, something that they can identify with, I think this is probably where we do miss. But I'm not quite sure that some of the suggestions for capturing emotions or making our message emotive are going to work when the response from the BDS people and Jew haters worldwide are going to say, well, we don't listen to the baby killers. I mean, there's always the comeback, and they have an influence on their.
So let me address this. I don't want you to understand from everything I said that my priority is to respond directly to the source of agitation. This is not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that the way to defeat the agitators is by approaching the majority in the middle who doesn't really care, who's not interested in geopolitics, not interested in the Middle East. If anything, they're afraid of terrorism. They're afraid of Islamic terrorism. If anything, they exist in all those societies, and they are the majority. There's no question about it. They are the majority in the United States for sure. Even on campus, even in the campuses that were most vocal against Israel on October 8th, I want you to know that 80% of the students on average opposed the protesters. So we need to know the numbers. They're definitely not the majority. And even here, people say, oh, but Mamdani won in New York. Well, Mamdani won with 52% of the votes. And he ran against two very weak candidates. And if one of them had dropped, he probably would have lost. And don't forget that Mamdani won because he ran on the anti-Trump ticket. He did not run on the anti-Israel ticket. This was not his ticket. Anti-Israel was virtue signaling on a large scale, but the real story is Trump, not Israel. So it would be a total mistake to think that your job is to respond to the agitators. It would be a complete waste of time. There's nothing we can do or say to change the position of the agitators. Right? Ta-Nehisi Coates is not my audience. It's not my target. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a lost cause. What we need to do is talk to the majority that doesn't care about the Middle East and tell them our story in a creative, inspirational fashion.
We do have social media as a means to do that, but together with social media and the message that we can put out, we have to also contend with Wikipedia. I'm an editor on Wikipedia, and it is just so soul-destroying, especially as it's fed back into AI, and then there's a constant loop back of information and misinformation. misinformation.
So when I speak about Israel establishing a national cyber force of 5,000 people, actually, I think that the real number should be more like 10,000 people. Definitely, Wikipedia editing should be a priority. There's no question about it. And by the way, not just editing, Israel should proactively create new Wikipedia entries about ordinary Israelis. And again, their creative stories, their contribution to the world, and so on. Not that the contribution by itself will change people's views, but it can create the emotional connection, right? So if someone, God forbid, is battling cancer and they know that someone in Israel is working on a solution to their problem, it should change something in them. And if it doesn't, they're not my audience.
And we do have posts about it, about the success of our medication and our inventions. We have it in facts system.
Yes, no, I know that. There is a section in Wikipedia called Did You Know? So this is a place for little anecdotes, little vignettes about life, people, real people doing real things.
And
Right.
let me add
Liat, how do you want to do the Q&A? Because I see lots of comments. So do you want to moderate the Q&A, or how do you want to do that?
Moran willing. I've sent out some questions.
Yes, Liat, if I may, because it's very relevant what Ido just spoke about. You know, yesterday during the IC Summit, we met with this amazing content organization called Talk Israel. And this is exactly what they do. They are telling great individual Israeli stories about individuals that are extremely creative in the world of fine cuisine, in the world of art, architecture, medicine, high tech. Individual stories about amazing people, which happen to also be Israelis. And they asked us, hey, can you help us, you know, spread our stories beyond the echo chamber so that the whole world can learn what Israelis are all about? You know, nothing to do with the war, nothing to do with the conflict, just how, you know, amazing people we are. We all know it, but the world doesn't, because like the ambassador said here, you know, they only know we are conflict, we are trouble, you know? So they asked us, hey, please help us to, you know, distribute massively. And also was sitting in, you know, the daughter of Adam Milstein, a Jewish philanthropist, one of IC founders, and she's like, hey, help her, you know, and we'll give you the financial umbrella to do so. And they want to do it into Instagram. So I have a strong feeling that we are, with our entrance to Instagram right now, that could be one of our very first projects, you know, following the ambassador's comments, you know, just rebrand Israel, introduce Israelis, you know, and how creative and amazing a bunch of people they are, you know, and hopefully we can get much better impact.
And by the way, if I may, Amit, just to add to what you said, and a word of you know, I sympathize with the people out there, because I know how difficult it is to face the agitation. You know, as a lecturer, I face it all the time, and it's difficult. You're standing, you know, in front of an audience, and then one member of the audience is saying something that's a complete lie or a complete distortion, or takes something out of context, and they do it in a very outrageous way and public way. And the temptation is tremendous. The temptation is tremendous to respond directly to them and to give it to them, quote unquote. But I always remember that the vast majority of the people in the room came to hear me, and I have an opportunity to actually impress them. So if I would waste my energy and my time responding directly to the source of agitation, I would let the agitator dominate the agenda. And so we must, as a collective, remember that. That's exactly what they want. It's exactly what they want.
This is our biggest challenge. That is actually our challenge. I wanted to ask you something, Ido. You're very impressive. And that is that if you believe, share with me, that envy is the root of hate, which is basically part of the problem, that the more they envy us, the more they'll hate us. because
Correct.
they don't understand us. They don't contribute like we do.
So you're absolutely correct. There's a very long list of reasons. One of them is the fact that we're 0.2% of global population, and you're not supposed to be. And by the way, and of those 0.2%, not all of them are Zionists. In fact, the majority of them are not Zionists, right? So we're 0.2%, but the number of Zionists among the 0.2% Jews is probably 0.1% of global population. And you're not supposed to be that successful when you're 0.1%. You're not supposed to have Nobel laureates. You're not supposed to win medals in the Olympic Games. You're not supposed to have chefs that are celebrated worldwide. You're not supposed to have filmmakers that are considered to be, Quentin Tarantino is not supposed to live in your country. Right? I just saw a picture. I don't know if you saw that. A beautiful city of Tel Aviv caught Tarantino walking on a bike lane. Did you see that?
Yes.
So they said, unless you're a director of a couple of masterpieces, you're not allowed to walk on a bike lane.
Exactly. So, Ido, I wanted to add another question from our group. Debbie from our team, from our community asked, I'm wondering how we can make sure that the average American hear what really is happening in Israel. And I wonder, what's your opinion about that?
Israel is an open, pluralistic society. Everybody knows what's happening in Israel. Israel is open. It's an open book. Right? All you have to do is just read Israeli media. There's a whole bunch of stuff in English. So there's no shortage. Again, the key is not to know what we want to say. We know what we want to say. The key is to identify groups out there, identify their areas of interest, and then deliver something to them that is relevant to them, not to us, to them.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, by the way, the same thing is in fundraising. I see a lot of Israeli fundraisers, they come to a donor and they immediately begin with their pitch. Oh, our hospital is a cutting edge hospital, but we have shortage of 300 beds and we need $20 million to build a new building, blah, 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 blah. Instead of spending time asking the donor, what's your passion? What do you care about? And then when you design your ask around the passion of the donor, all of a sudden it's much easier to raise money.
Or support.
Which is,
good point. And I think your point about not trying to convince the unconvincible is really idea, that we need as a team. And I know that we post to Advocate for Israel and we provide comments and responses, and sometimes we get sucked into those conversation that just we don't want to entertain. So I think it's a great point of focusing on what the majority needs to hear and not what the loud minority that's trying to skew us and move us from our target, almost either ignore them. I guess I wanted to ask you, do you ignore the person that comes and talks, or how do you kind of change the conversation there? Yeah.
It's a very, very good question. Thank you, Moran, for asking this. So, first of all, you need to do your analysis, and I know that, Boaz, this is your field. Is it real or not? Because, I know in many cases I'm dealing with bots. These are not real people. I check their profiles; they're not real. They're agitators, and they're not even real. So, if they're not real, then you're wasting your time fighting with a bot. But I don't want you to understand from what I'm saying is that there is that we need to completely neglect the fight. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that fight can never be the only thing we do. Because no brand was able to flourish and thrive by constantly debating its problems. Think about it. Just think about it. Imagine an airline, United Airlines, is talking to us all the time, press conferences every day, talking about how they're fixing their problems. we would never fly united, even if they are able to fix some of the problems. Take Chicago. Imagine the city of Chicago. The mayor of Chicago every day is holding a press conference at 5 p.m. with the police commissioner, and they say, we want to report to you how many criminals we arrested today and how many shotguns we confiscated today. 584 criminals were arrested today. And the next day, 355 gang members were arrested and blah, blah, blah. So supposedly it's all good, right? Good news.
No go
Actually,
no go to Chicago, yeah.
Exactly. No one will ever set foot in Chicago if they've done that. So
Very good point.
so we need to understand the basics of marketing. Marketing is based on your relative advantages. And Israel has many advantages that our neighbors don't have, and certainly not the Palestinians. And we need to play on those advantages. In economy, they also call it the competitive edge. What makes you different than the others? In our case, is that we are a knowledge-based economy. We are unique. We are the only knowledge-based economy in the Middle East, right? That's why the Saudis are still interested in normalizing ties. That's why the UAE has a relationship with Israel. That's why Bahrain has a relationship with Israel. That's why Morocco restored relationship with Israel. That's why Indonesia is interested in relationship with Israel, because we are knowledge-based economy, and that's inspirational.
Ido, can I
It
have
is.
a small question? What about using the cards of extreme Islam? Because that's something that many Europeans and also Americans are very worried about. Can we get them to connect with us and to understand us if you use this card?
Yeah. So, I'm sure if Israel had a proper cyber force, it would have been one of the campaigns. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what's in it for me? What's in it for Israel? Let's say we scare the hell out of the Europeans. Not that they're not scared already, but let's say we scare the hell out of them, right? What's in it for us? As a brand, are we going to get more tourists?
They can understand our actions, with Gaza and with our neighbors. They can see why we're doing that, because we're afraid of extermination and of terror acts like they are.
So again, we are responding to the minority that is making all the noise. The vast majority of Europeans are not happy about what's happening in Europe. The vast majority of them. The vast majority of Americans are not happy about what happened here on campuses. They're not happy about those Americans who say that 10/7 was a legitimate form of resistance. One of the reasons Trump is back in the White House, and I really believe that, is the shameful testimony in Congress of the 3 university presidents in December of 2023, especially the former president of Harvard, who couldn't answer a simple question.
Yeah.
And basically handed the presidency on a silver platter to Donald Trump, because he was able to say, look what I'm talking, look what we have to deal with, right? Here's a live example of discrimination, because every person who watched this testimony, and there were billions, I saw somewhere that they got 5 billion views, those testimonies, the congressional hearings, 5 billion views, meaning people watched them 5 times. I watched it 10 times because I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
We all know
to say that it's aggression.
No, the problem that she had was the hypocrisy. People are not stupid as we may think. Everybody knew that if it was a group of gay students or a group of black students harassed on campus at Harvard, she would have had no problem whatsoever calling the police and putting an end to it within 5 minutes. Everybody knew that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the hypocrisy.
So I guess, Ido, just as a general thought here, we know the media is against Israel, anti-Zionism, Jew hate, the mainstream media. And that's what a lot of that majority is hearing and seeing, whether they agree with it or not, what would be the sort of content that most will not just, and I hear you talk about emotion and inspirational, but is that not going to raise more feeling of, oh, the Jews can do all these things, we should hate them even more? So what would be that content, that happy medium that would get people from the majority that don't hate us, don't love us, don't care about us, but to support us so that they see that that loud minority needs to be handled? Because I
Okay,
think that's
so
what it comes down to it.
yeah, so societies, especially open societies, are complex. People can love some aspects of the French culture, and people can hate other aspects of the French culture. People can love some aspects of the Italian culture and hate some other aspects of the Italian culture. For example, French people, when I was growing up, were very unpleasant. They were very inhospitable to guests. I remember my first times in France, people refused to speak English to me. As a tourist, here I am. I come to your country. I want to spend money in your restaurant. And you refuse to answer my questions in English,
Yeah.
right? So the French people had very bad reputation. It's number one tourism attraction in Europe. France is attracting 80 million tourists a year, more than Spain, 3 times the number of tourists that come to New York City. So you can be disliked and liked at the same time. You can be criticized and liked at the same time. My point is, Israel has many attractive dimensions. Let's allow people to put their attraction to Israel on display. The best example is the gay community. The gay community in Europe. Or look at the Eurovision Song Contest, another example, right? So the governments are very critical of Israel. But the peoples in Norway, they voted Israel number one. The Norwegian government, they don't like Israel. They don't like Israeli policies. They don't like the Israeli government. But the people, they voted Israel number one, right?
And we're number one in their contest of votes, even if we don't have a singer or a song yet.
So that my point is
A couple of them, a few. I don't want too heavy, not too heavy. Thank you.
Yeah, there's noise in the background. But my point is that that it's complex. It's not binary. It's complex. It's not that either you hate us or you like us. People can disagree with Israel and be very attracted to what Israel represents vis-a-vis the gay community in Europe. Yeah. When you look at the gay pride parade before 10/7, when you look at, there were 50,000 Europeans that came. Most of them were British men. Now, I didn't ask them, what do you think about Gaza? Probably they're against Israeli policies. I don't know. But the key is to understand the complexity of it, right? People can be attracted to Israel and be critical of Israel at the same time. That's what's happening with China and America. Do you know what is the number one most popular brand in China? The NBA, an American brand. An American brand is the most popular brand in China.
Interesting.
All right, folks, I gotta go. Thank you so much for your time. And really, God bless you for everything that you do. I'm here to help you in any way I can. Take care.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
The insight.
It was fascinating.
Yes.
Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Moran, Boaz, one last word.
Yeah. We have another half a year Zoom meeting. Yeah. 2 slides, the last slides, and let's finish it. So now I want to share with you a little bit about the next plans, a little bit Amit talk about it, and for the new friends, how you can join us or help us to succeed more. So first, in the next few projects, the first one is we call it AI matching system. We talked about it before. We already created the proof of concept. We have the ability to do it, but to finish it in a large scale, we need more funds. This concept is to find to search deeply the groups that we are talking with and analyze what happened inside in terms of sentiment, in terms of the left or the right, what is the main topics on these groups. Then we can match with them with what's interesting for them. Is that exact what Ido said, and that's what we understand for a long time ago. But we need resources for it. The second one is Instagram, then TikTok United States. Instagram is obvious, it's where we are, where all the youngsters grow on this social media. So we need to inform them and to talk with them. And TikTok, now we have the opportunity after Larry Ellison buy the TikTok United States, so we can do something productive in United States, while it's not a Chinese algorithm in United States, but pro-Israeli Jewish person, Larry Ellison, that buy TikTok United States. So that's the next free project. And here is the way that you can join us if you are new, if it's your first time you heard about us, so you can join in the right QR code. In the middle, if you have some connection, some donor that you connect with us, some foundation, some organization that can collaborate with us. So you have here the email of Liat on our organization. Liat, she's amazing. She's with us from the first month, maybe first weeks of the organization, and help us a lot of all the operations. She managed a lot of things and bring a lot of value to our organization. So thank you, Liat, a lot. She, by the way, helped a lot to organize this event. So we have all the honor to work with you. And the last option here is in the left. If you want to contribute by yourself, if you would like to do it, it's amazing. And this is the QR code for the donation page. Thank you, all of us, all of you, and let's do big things together. Thank you.
Thank you, Boaz, and thank you for everyone that attended today. It was very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yashar Kach.
Thank you, Moran.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Hatzlacha. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
לכולנו.
Interesting.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Tina.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night. Here is night.
Bye, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.